The revolt of Bà Triệu still remains vivid in the consciousness of the Lac-Viet people. Several decades after the events, as the myth already permeates history, the time has come to record this story in the archives of the province of Giao. May this narrative illuminate the discernment of your imperial wisdom regarding the fate that you wish to bestow upon this region. I was 20 years old when Lưu Đài army entered the province of Giao Chỉ.
Chịu thì trên gian khó, tuổi thơ đau đớn không ngừng, mơ theo hai bà trưng giữ lòng không xa lạc đường. Tôi muốn coi cơn gió mạnh đạp luồng sông dữ, chép các ký ngỡ biển khơi đánh đuổi quân ngô giành lại giang sơn. Cười ách nô lệ, đâu chịu không lưng làm tê thiết cho người. Bà giết chị sâu ấm, kẻ muốn đền nén đời mình. Giấc mơ trỗi dậy mạnh dẫn dắt anh hùng hiền vinh. Lạc Việt tụ hội lại cùng nhau chống giặc Bắc Kinh. Trên vui trong và chiến tiếng vang khắp mọi hành tinh. Tôi muốn coi cơn gió mạnh đạp luồng sông dữ, chép các ký ngỡ biển khơi đánh đuổi quân ngô giành lại giang sơn. Cười ách nô lệ, đâu chịu không lưng làm tê thiết cho người.
Tired of the recurrent insurrections of the Lac-Viet, the Han Emperor had appointed my uncle Shi as governor of the province of Giao Chỉ with the mission to pacify the region. My uncle had done much on these lands to maintain good relations with the various indigenous ethnic groups, mainly with the Lac-Viet. The Lac-Viet believe they are descendants of a king from the race of sea dragons called Lac Long Quan and an immortal mountain fairy called O Ke. O Ke was a brave traveler and a talented herbalist, always searching for medicinal herbs. Meanwhile, Lac Long Quan was a hero capable of defeating powerful spirits. From their love, 100 children were born who inherited their father's strength and courage, as well as their mother's kindness and intelligence. But too different in their ways of life, Lac Long Quan returned to the sea with half of the children, while O Ke went back to the mountains with the other half. But they promised each other to come to each other's aid if danger threatened. During the 4 centuries of Chinese occupation, the Lac-Viet were imposed a way of life consistent with Confucian precepts. Insurrections were numerous. The most spectacular was that of the Trung sisters, 2 centuries before these events. But Shi preferred to govern with benevolence, becoming a host to his Lac-Viet subjects. He had done much to spread the teachings of the Buddha in the region. His death left a great void. A void that Sun Quan, king of Wu, thought he could exploit to take full control of the region. My cousin Shi Hui, who succeeded my uncle Shi, refused Sun Quan's plan to divide the province, who had gained a dominant position in the region following the fall of the Han dynasty and his numerous military victories against the kingdoms of Shu and Wei. Shi Hui was convinced that the Wu would never send troops, that it was enough to block the arrival of officials sent to depose him. He believed we were indispensable to the power of the Wu. Gathered in Longbian, we learned that the Wu general, Lưu Đài, had entered Jiao and that his army already occupied Hepu. His goal was to subdue the Shi clan to the authority of Sun Quan. We had no news of the administrator Shi Yi, our other uncle who was in charge there. Opting for a lightning war, Lưu Đài arrived here at the head of an army of 3,000 heavily armed men. His progress was so rapid that we were unable to gather a force of our supporters. Lưu Đài had even said, if the barbarians combined their forces and joined the rebellion of Shi Hui, even the greatest general could not face it. A guard interrupted our discussions. My other cousin Shi Kuang, the son of administrator Shi Yi, from whom we had no news since the capture of Hepu, presented himself at the city gates. At that moment, I saw the relief in the eyes of my kin. Thus, it was possible to get out of this alive. After all, this Lưu Đài might not be the monster we thought, and perhaps dialogue was possible. Shi Kuang presented himself to us and persuaded us to open the city gates to Lưu Đài and offer him and his men hospitality. However, my father, Shi Wei, administrator of the Juzhen commandery, grabbed my arm and handed me a scroll containing a parchment. It included the list and positions of loyalist officers of the Shi clan. He ordered me to stay away from the meeting. If something went wrong, I was to return to Juzhen and give this list to Commander Huan Ji so he could lead the counter-offensive. I made my father promise to meet me in Juzhen as soon as possible if that happened. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep his promise. When my kin went to the foot of the walls, Lu Dai was at the head of an imposing and perfectly ordered troop. I myself observed from the ramparts, the armor, the banners, the perfect discipline that made the prestige of the Wu army faced a handful of frightened notables surrounded by a few militiamen. From where I stood, I could not hear what the men were saying. After a while, everyone peacefully entered the city. But that evening, at the meal that was to be served before the negotiations, Lu Dai's men burst in and mercilessly massacred the men of the Shi clan. At the same time, Wu troops occupied the streets of Longbian in front of a petrified population. I cried, but later. For now, obeying my father, I rode south towards Juzhen, trying to flee my emotions as well as the wave of chaos engulfing the region. Both would catch up with me quickly. I could not imagine that the person upon whom all our hopes would rest was then only 1 year old.